I'm very happy to introduce you to 6 tips to build contractors' loyalty. If you're running a lifestyle business where you hire people all the time like I do, it's very important to find the best possible people. Number one, which I already told you how to. You create a posting, then you use the hiring funnel, you rate them, you eventually interview them, and finally you find those great people. Now, it's not just about finding great people. It's hard enough to find them. Now you want to keep them. And to keep them, you have to make sure that they're happy. And after a few years contracting contractors, I came up with 6 tips that will help you keep these people longer and happier. So number one, set clear expectations early. So from the beginning, introduce yourself, be friendly, and make sure that they understand exactly what's expected from them. Also negotiate the rates right from the beginning so they're not surprises, right? So it's like, okay, we spoke about this. If necessary, have them sign a contractor's contract. If they have any issues with it, you can negotiate, you can change whatever you think is right, but make sure that from day one they know exactly what's expected from them so they're not surprises. 2, don't micromanage. One of the advantages of having a contractor that is really good because you went through a good, they got selected after a lot of work, is that if they're good at what they do, they don't need much supervision. You'll tell them what to do. They'll do the best possible work. There may be some revisions or feedback, but most of the time they'll do great work. Hopefully, way better than you could do it yourself. That's why you hire them. That's why you're paying them well, right? Appreciate their work. It doesn't matter if you think it was easy for them to do it because maybe it was a simpler job or whatever. Every time that you have an opportunity to say thank you or appreciate their work, say it. It goes a long way. Don't just assume that because you're paying them, it's their job. So it's like, okay, well, why am I going to say thank you? It's your job. I'm paying you for it. No, because everybody has emotions and has an ego. It's nice. It's just nice to appreciate somebody's work, right? And you should never get tired of saying thank you, even if you're paying a lot of money for that work. Provide recent feedback. I'm not sure if this is how you say it, recent, but feedback on when you're hiring contractors is always going to be a huge time suck. Because the first time somebody does something, it's very unlikely they're gonna do it perfectly for you or perfectly for your client. So there are gonna be revisions, there's gonna be feedback, and that's usually the most frustrating part of contracting people or of doing jobs as a service business. So it's very important that you have, I would say, even a feedback policy on how you provide feedback. But typically, the way it works for me is, when I give feedback, I just don't say change this, this, and this, and that's it. I say change this because. You have to understand that. Let's say when I hire an illustrator and animator, if they're really good at what they do, almost everything they did, there was a reason why they did it in their own mind. Maybe they thought that was the most interesting creative solution. Maybe they thought that they thought that was the best way of doing it. So now if you're going to tell them to redo their work, it's very important that they understand why you think that's a better way, or they should change it. Maybe it was a client requesting that, and you couldn't argue that change, and the client won even if it didn't make sense, which happens sometimes, and then they just have to bite the bullet. Or you really think that this change is going to help the overall final product, and then you just reason why do you think it's so. Eventually they have to really listening to you because you're the one paying them. And some contractors would they're like, yeah, whatever you tell me, I'll do it. But it's more likely that they'll do the revisions with a not a smile, but probably with less friction if you provide a good reason behind why you ask for that change. Always pay them, and pay them as soon as possible. This always pay them is like a no-brainer, right? Don't hire somebody, don't pay them, because it's a horrible thing to do. But the thing about paying them immediately, which is something I've done from the beginning, really helps to build loyalty. Remember that contractors, many times they have to wait to get paid after they get the job done. Sometimes they don't even take a deposit at the beginning. So, you know, a lot of these contractors, like normal people in the world, they're almost living paycheck to paycheck to pay their rent or their expenses. And it really makes a big difference if you pay them as soon as possible. And this means paying them even if before you got paid by the client. This could be an issue. It could create a cash flow issue if your clients take a long time to pay. That's why, you know, in the industry, especially in the creative industry, it's typical to, you know, take a 50% deposit or a deposit at the beginning, so at least that covers you, you know, some of your expenses, and that way, you know, you don't run into cash flow issues, and you also can afford to pay your contractors immediately. By immediately, I mean as soon as their work is approved, you pay them. You ask for their invoice. Always ask for an invoice because you're gonna need this for accounting purposes, and then pay them. Do not wait. Sometimes I basically get the invoice and within 5 minutes I pay the contractor. They're not used to this. This is unlikely for them to happen. So they're very positively surprised. And of course, they want to work for somebody that pays them well and pays them immediately. And finally, communicate often and face to face. Having remote workers all around the world means that in reality you wouldn't have to, you could communicate with them just via email, so you could just have like a faceless relationship. But like I say, in order to build royalty in order to build loyalty, it's better if you can create a stronger connection, a more face-to-face connection, and you're not going to travel across the world to meet them. Maybe you could if it happened, but the best thing you can do is at least meet them for sure the first time you interview them face-to-face, and then definitely when any issues arise. So like if there's small feedback or small things that are not really crucial that can be communicated asynchronously via email or WhatsApp or whatever, then it's fine. You know, it's probably even better and more convenient to do it through email. But when there is issues, specifically hard like difficult feedback, or you start sensing that, you know, the contractor is not happy for whatever reason, then the email is prone to misinterpretation, because it's very hard to read and feel the emotion on text. So instead of just assuming or getting angry just, you know, behind your keyboard, what I recommend is the moment you sense this, diffuse the situation by, you know, getting on a Skype conversation and seeing each other's face and hearing each other's voice in real time, and you see how amazingly well that works. First of all, it shows that you care, that you're willing to take the time to have a face-to-face conversation. It also shows guts. It's like you're not just hiding behind your keyboard and, you know, saying, you know, just pressing enter. It's like, you do this because I tell you, or something like that. And if they have an issue, you're like, okay, let's work through this issue, and we're not going to move forward until we work it out. And the fastest way of doing so is by having a face-to-face conversation, you know, with Skype, which is, and I'm telling you this because it has happened in the past, and really sometimes situations that seem like deal breakers, where it almost seemed that the contractor was gonna quit. It's like, you know, I cannot take enough more feedback from this crazy client or whatever, and it happens. You know, just pay me whatever you owe me, and I'm gonna leave. And then you just get into this conversation. It's suddenly like black and white. It's like, are you the one that were writing these emails? People tend to be a lot more polite when they are in a real life conversation, and you know, it's like, it's the fastest way of diffusing problems. And the same way applies also, by the way, when you are dealing with a client that is not happy. Instead of just getting angry and typing things on your keyboard, just get on a phone conversation, and ideally a face-to-face conversation. Anyways, these are the 6 things that I've been doing for the last 5 years, and that they help me to keep really good, talented contractors loyal to my company. Hey, did you enjoy this video? If you want to see more like this, just subscribe here. If you want a free gift, click here. Yeah. Which one is going to be the one you click? La 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 li 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 li.